Hello traders, it is Samurai Trader here. In this video I will be covering the indicators that I use in my trading, plus how to set up your chart. Of course, we need to mention the risk in trading, the standard disclaimer that I put on all of my videos. Please feel free to hold the video and read that if you need to. Now please go to full screen. Also, is it down in the bottom left hand bottom right hand corner, you can see there, you can click on that and it will take this particular video to full screen as you watch. It just makes it easy to watch. Now, one thing I'd like you to think about as we're doing this is consider yourself a pilot. Review, focus, review, focus. Now what I'd like you to do is to take notes as I run through each of my videos, and you probably hear me talk about this on every video that I do. And in this particular case, you can see there I've got there's actually 3 folders. 2 of them have various chart patterns and copies of charts that I've printed off and put in, and one of them has my trading plan and my trading rules, and on the far right there I've got one of my famous spiral binders where I take copious notes every day I trade. So as I'm trading live, what I tend to do is to review my charts, review my folders, review my notes, focus back on the chart, review, focus. If we consider a pilot, they do basically exactly the same thing. Before they take off, they're reviewing their flight path, their notes, their manuals, etc. And if you're unaware of this, a pilot, for an example, is not allowed to have any small talk until they're at least at 10,000 feet. So they've got to be really focused on the task at hand, and that's exactly what I'd like you to do when you're trading. My job as your success coach is to get you to epic trader status. Now, we can only process 5 to 7 pieces or chunks of information at any one time, so less is best on your chart. So what I'm going to do in a moment is to layer everything on the chart, but depending on the setup that you're trading, only have the bare minimum on the chart itself, because the more information you've got to process, the more mistakes you make, the more trades that you miss out on because you're not focused. Very, very important. But in this particular video, I want to lay everything up and explain them as we go. So these are the key indicators and settings that I use in my trading. So number 1, we use an 89 period EMA. Number 2, a 200, and both of these are used to give me the overall direction of the trend. Now for 200 is particularly useful if you say only have 1 or 2 screens and you don't want to be looking at an anchor chart. Now I am going to cover in another video anchor charts and how to use them correctly. However, anchor charts, I must say, can also make trading more difficult, because the more things you refer to as you trade, the more difficult trading becomes. Remember what Richard Branson said, that any fool can make something complicated. Keep things simple, and that's really what we want to do here. So I have the 89, and as you know, the 89 bounce is one of my most popular trades that I take. We have the 200, the 21 period moving channel. I'll explain that once I put that on, and we use that particularly with a T69, and it's a good lower time frame trend indication. We can use a 21 period, or I should say, the zero lag, the 21 period zero lag moving average. If you don't have a zero lag in your trading platform, or on your trading platform I should say, you can use an 8 period EMA. Now one thing why I think of it is with some of the custom indicators that I use on TradeStation. If you're a TradeStation user, of course, I give you all of these. I'm actually investigating at the moment, and I've just downloaded NinjaTrader. I'm not a NinjaTrader user, but I've downloaded that to test a number of indicators to see whether they'll match exactly what I have here. Is that if you Google the indicator for your trading platform, there are that many traders forums now. All of these you can actually get free of charge for virtually every trading platform that's on that's available now. So all of these you can basically get for free. So watch what I do and what I use, and if it's not already on your trading platform or not available, simply Google it and you'll probably find one of the trading forums would have one of these, because a lot of these setups of course are used by floor traders and have been for the last 50-60 years. So they've been around for years, so they've been coded for basically every single trading platform that's available. And also don't go out and purchase them. That is nearly everything here is available free of charge. So we've also got this over 21 zero lag, which I use extensively, the platinum MACD for raised platinum MACD. Now I have that set to 728.7. Now the standard setting of MACD is 12.26.9. Now you'll see I've got mine fine-tuned. Now what you can also use, if you currently use a CCI, you can replace the MACD with a CCI, a 14 period, because some people are real CCI fans. Of course, Woody's CCI has made CCI very famous, and that's also a good replacement. But I'll show you how I use mine, and of course with all of these indicators you can go and apply your own. Now also on the EMAs, using them for trend direction, is one better than the other? For an example, the 34 EMA is used by a lot of people that I work with. They love and prefer the 34 EMA. Some will just use the SMA, a standard moving average. So it really comes down to what you've been using in the past. Now what I will say is this: if trading hasn't worked for you up to now, we need to go back and we need to start right from step one. So use my indicators and model what I have here. And of course, if you're already successful or want to improve what you have, or already are very satisfied with the indicator that you're using, you can use those, but just be aware of that. Now I also, of course, for the slingshots, the T10s, I use the slow stochastic set to 21, 14 and 1, and another one layered on top set to 5, 3 and 3. You'll see me apply that in a moment. Of course, my super scalper. Now for super scalper entries are based upon the Carter entries. So the Carter entries, of course, if you Google that, Mastering the Trade by John Carter, he's a very famous trader. It's just it's almost the rule of two pattern, which I'll explain when I go through each individual trade setup. So I'm not going to get too much into those when I show you how to set the charts up. That is a separate video, the actual trade setups and how they work. But I'm going to give you a quick overview on setting up your charts. Now the fractal indicators. Now fractals I'll come back to, but they're available for virtually every charting package now, and in my opinion they're one of the greatest, best kept secrets of day trading. Floor pivots, you'll see that I use floor pivots. I use a custom floor pivot program that I purchased 8 or 9 years ago. There are lots of different floor pivots available on the market, and most charting packages have them. Optional is the bar countdown timer. Now many charting packages have them available, or if you Google them, they're available free of charge from most trading forums. So whether you be using Sierra Charts or NinjaTrader, a bar countdown timer for tick charts, for range, etc., or time if you prefer a time-based chart, gives you an idea when the candle is going to close. And particularly if you're about to implement or enter a trade, that's very useful, because what we generally want to see is our candles close in the direction of our trade. The alligator moving averages, Bill Williams in Trading Chaos and Trading Dimensions talks a lot about the alligator. Once again, you can get that free of charge, and I'll be showing you how I use that, and I use it particularly in the T98 trade, the T98. Optional also is the Hull moving average. That also can be used extensively in our T 69 trade. All of these, of course, you'll be taught in separate videos how to use. Once again, please Google that. Now, I know of a number of software vendors that are marketing the whole moving average for hundreds of dollars, and it's a fairly standard indicator. It's just that when you see it in operation, it's very similar to a zero lag, and it's got some really magical things about it. Now, when it comes to using indicators, you may remember this is that the early bird gets the worm. That is, there's nothing like pure price action trading. With the T25, which is a 2 to 5 candle pullback, which we will be covering in a separate video, that's pure price action trading. Your win-loss ratio, that is, your wins may be slightly lower, but you're in earlier, so you can have a higher profit target. Now, the second mouse always gets the cheese, meaning that, of course, any mouse that runs into the trap to grab the cheese is going to get caught. That is where indicators are used. An indicator may get you in a little later, but it may be safer. So there is a place for both indicators and pure price action trading. And as you hear me talk about in every video I do, what I want you to do is to focus on one setup, a trend following setup that resonates with you, and the best ones are your T1 and your T2, and a change in trend is your T10, which is a very high probability trade. So the video that I've shot for that covers both T1, T2 and T10 in the one video. That's what I would highly recommend you focus on to begin with. Now, fractals are one of the best kept secrets in trading. So when we apply trend lines, you may be wondering why we use fractals. It's really essential, absolutely essential, if you're going to use trend lines and channels, etc., and the wolf wave, which we'll cover separately, as an indicator. So I highly recommend that you use fractals in your trading, and we're going to apply those in a moment, and you'll see them firsthand. So let's have a look now at a raw chart. So what I have there in front of you is the NQ 133 tick chart. As most of you know, it's one of my preferred markets to trade, the NQ. I love the 133 tick. Now that is during market hours, that is during the US hours. Now after hours, after the main markets close and Globex kicks in, I like to drop that down to an 89 tick, preferably a 55 tick, because the volume dries up. However, there's still some great scalping opportunities. If you're trading one or two, you can get up to 10 contracts, but even with 10 contracts at times you can get slippage, particularly in the after hours market. But for the sake of this video, I'm using a 133 tick chart. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned earlier in this video, please take notes as I'm running through. Anything you're not sure of, stop the video, rewind it, or scroll back a little and replay it. Because what will happen is, as I say in every one of my videos, you'll have what I call aha experiences. You may not fully understand it, but once you see it in operation 2 or 3 times, or you watch it 2 or 3 times, or you start to gain what we call screen time, you'll soon understand exactly what I'm covering. And with that point, really, you've purchased my program for me to fast track your success. One thing I can't give you is screen time. That is, a lot of the patterns are geometric patterns, are patterns that appear in the market day in, day out. The only thing that's going to really accelerate your learning is screen timing. That is, the more often you're sitting there watching, sitting back patiently watching, the better you'll actually become at recognizing these patterns. So let's start to apply some of the indicators to the screen. Now for TradeStation users, if we right click and go under format, techniques and strategies, of course every charting package is different here, But what I have here in this window are most of the indicators that I'll use. The first one is the floor pivots that I use in TradeStation. If you wish to get the exact same floor pivots I use, they're an extra. I buy them from someone else. They actually cost me, including another indicator, $197, but most packages already have floor pivots in them. I just happen to have been using these ones for years. I find them very accurate and I like them. The next indicator I've got there, I've highlighted, is a bar countdown timer. You can see up in the top right hand corner, you can see it's ticking down how many ticks. It turns red. Once again, you can get this indicator free with most charting packages, or Google your charting package and put in their free bar countdown timer, and you'll find virtually everything is free on the internet now. It's fantastic. Now, the next indicator I have here is a hull MA, which I'll apply later on and you'll see why. But let's go down to the first indicator that I wish to apply, and I want to apply my longer term stochastic. Now the stochastic is what we use for our, particularly for discovering whether we are in a trading range, or for our T2s and T10s particularly. Now, so what I've just done here, oops, let me just go back up there, and I'm going to apply that. Just simply click on it. So I've already put these in and they're already customized to the settings that I wish to have here, so we can see that it's here. Now the setting, once again, just for filming, the window is a little smaller, but the setting as per on the screen earlier is 21, 14 and 1. And all I want to show here is the black line here, which is, let me just show you this here, is the slow K, and you can see the weight. I've got it a little heavier and I've made it black in color, so it's a slow K. The others, the slow D, I've just got as the same color as my background because I only want to show this one. Now the next indicator I'm going to put on is, let me go back up here, is the other extra slow, which now is applied over my long term. Now I've done this previously. What happens is you drag one over the other. So what we can see here is, and let me just scroll along here, we can see these different formations that are setting up. We've got a T10 here, we've got a T2. These are basically T10s forming, or anyway, you'll see those. For the purpose of this video, I just want to really show you the indicators that I have on the screen. So there we go. The next indicator I'm going to put on, let me go back up here, is my MACD. Now in this particular case, I've customized the MACD, and MACDs we use for trend direction, for zero line crosses, we use them for divergence, we use them in lots of ways, and you'll see more on this as we film the trade setup videos themselves. As you watch those, you'll see in more detail. So what I've now got on is my slow stochastics for the T2s and T10s, and I've got the MACD. Now what I'm going to do is, because I want to see mainly price action, I'm going to minimize or pull these right down so that more data will show. Now what I can also do here is I can actually, on TradeStation over here, I can actually bring this down so I can actually rise. You can see rise or falling. I think they call this the apex, and virtually every charting package allows you to do this as well. So what we're now going to apply is the 89 EMA. Now of course the EMAs, when you first apply them, you need to customize these when you first put them on your chart. Now what I recommend is that you use the same colors. If you're going to model what I'm doing, use the same color, so as you watch my recap videos online, or if you're using my coaching services, I would have already told you this, to model exactly what I do, because what we want to do is fast track you and get you doing exactly what I do. So this is the 89 EMA. We're now going to apply the 200. Okay, so the 200 goes on, and we can see here that's well above there. Okay, see a nice little, there's a little 200 bounce here. You've got a 200B down here. We'll be explaining those, how they operate later on. The next indicator I'm going to apply is the EMA channel. Now the EMA channel is a 21 period EMA channel, which has taken the high and the low of the past 21 periods. So let me just click on that and show you this here. We go to inputs. Okay, so the length is 21, and so it's simply the high and the low of a 21 of the last 21 periods. Now once again, there are a number of channels about, and you can see, you'll actually see that with the T69 we use this extensively. Now the next indicator I'm going to apply here is the, let me go down and make sure I cover them all completely here, is the fractals. Oops, sorry traders, let me just get that right. You've got to go down here, let us close. Okay, there we go. So see the black dots. Now a fractal, you saw the slide that I showed earlier. So basically for the standard fractals, for a fractal dot to appear, you've got two candles lower on each side. Now you do have non-standard fractals, however the typical fractal, you can see here we've got two candles on either side. This one here we've got two lower, two lower, two higher, two higher. That dot appears. Now where they become useful and where you use fractals extensively, and you'll see this when I'm doing trend line trading, is for going from trend line to trend line. For an example, where do you ideally set your trend line? Well, what I recommend is use your fractal points for that. We'll cover more of that in pattern videos. Now the next one we're going to apply is the zero lag. So let's find row zero lag. Now the zero lag indicator is, I use it extensively for the shorter term trend direction. Now you can adjust all of these as you gain experience. You can experiment with different periods and different lengths on these. However, what I'd like to warn you is a couple of things. First of all is curve fitting. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've done a huge amount of testing on your behalf, so I find that these are the optimum settings for me. Now one thing I do have is my own research and development team, being traders that I actually train, that I coach ongoing, and institutions I work for. That is, I get an enormous amount of feedback virtually every day from traders, what they're doing, what's working, what's not working, etc. If you do happen to find something that works better for you, please let me know, but these are really the optimum settings that I'd highly recommend that you use. Now of course with this particular indicator, we want to see the cyan. That is, we only want to take the trade in the direction of the trend when the indicator has turned cyan or magenta if you're going to go short. Now it will get you in a trade slightly later from trading pure price action. As you gain experience, you may ignore it and you may still enter a trade in a direction of a trend or even counter trend. As many of you have seen my training videos, that I'll quite often jump in a T89 well before I have the zero lag actually turn and say to short the market, because I'm so confident with the trading pattern itself, and I know the statistics, the probabilities of the trade working are very high. So initially wait for the zero lag to confirm your trade direction. So what else have I got here? We've got the zero lag. Now the super scalper. Now super scalper is what I use for giving me the trend direction for both counter trend trades and trading with the trend. And John Carter, in his book Mastering a Trade, talks about this particular indicator strategy has been around for many years. Now the candle does not plot, or the white does not plot, until you've had an uptick above the second candle. So this is candle 1, 2, we tick above, it appears. So in another video, when I explain in more detail the trade setup, if you don't have the paint bar or can't find them, I'll be explaining how to recognize the pattern anyway. So it's a standard pattern that appears, and at times the T1 signal, what I call the T1, the super scalper, can actually hinder you. And you will find that also you'll get the T1, and you'll quite often get a T1 signal after a T2. Sometimes a T2 will be more accurate, but we'll cover more of that later on. So let's just go back to the window here. The bar, the hull I've covered. I've got a standard MACD there, the 26, the 12.26.9. It operates, it is very different visually to mine, but you can play around with it. We spoke about the EMAs, the 200, the 8, the 89. Now the alligator. And in Bill Williams' book, he talks a great deal in his course actually about using the alligator when these, we can see here, the 3 moving averages, the blue, the red, the green, when they're opening up, the alligator is hungry, get ready to buy. And your entry, see the fractal just there, is this candle here. Your entry is 1 tick, so you had a limit order there, 1 tick above that fractal, and you would have been in that trade. Down here, your entry for a short would have been 1 tick below there over here. Now I use the alligator for a whole lot of reasons. Actually, that's not entirely true, for a couple of reasons, a whole lot of reasons. One of them is if ever I'm going to do some fractal trading, I'll use it also because when they become intertwined, what Bill Williams says here is that basically the market has closed its mouth, the alligator is not hungry, it's closed its mouth, and you're not going to enter a trade until price is below and you have a fractal hit. Now I use it here also for the T89 trade, sorry, the T98 trade, which I'll explain when I do the trade setups. However, for standard trading, I will not have that displayed, because getting back to, we want to keep our trades, our screens, my apologies, our screens simple and non-complicated. Remember, you only can process 5 to 7 bits of information at a time. The more indicators you have on the screen, the more complicated, the harder it is to trade. So let me just check all of these. The EMA we've got there, fractals, channel, alligator. Okay, now the 8 EMA, let me just put that up there, which is this dark brown line here. It's fairly close to modeling what the zero lag does. Now what a lot of traders will do, and by the way, this works very well, you only take a trade when the 8 is above a 20 EMA. So this 8 EMA has got to be above the channel or a 20 EMA. It's a trend direction, but also if you can't get hold of a zero lag, you can use the 8 EMA instead. But we'll apply that on other trades when we're doing live trades, and I'll show you that on another video. Let me now remove that for now, because once again you may not even use that, because basically all of these are available. One thing I do want to show you is the hull. Now the hull MA we use here, and you can see here, let me actually remove the zero lag here, and you can see how the hull changes color with the direction. Now this is an excellent indicator, and you can use it as a replacement to the zero lag if you wish. In fact, some traders that I work with believe this is better than the zero lag, because the zero lag will give you it's more sensitive in many ways. So the setting I have on that one is a 40. Now you might change this back to a 34. Let me just do that and show you what happens. Let's just go back here. Okay, it's a little more sensitive, gets you in maybe a little earlier, but you can see here where it's green you're staying long, or you're only considering long trades. Here red, only shorts, little bit of green, but then it's shorts, and away you go. Now look at this long run here. Now lots of people use the hull, and you can see here we get a bounce off the 200. The hull eventually turns green and then it rolls over. Now when you're in a strong trend, you may use this as an indication of when to stay in a trade and when to get out. I don't use it day to day, but it is a replacement, or can be a replacement, to the zero lag. So let me just remove that for now, disable it. It is another excellent moving average. Once again, simple is best. Trading doesn't have to be complicated. The best floor traders are those with the minimal amount of indicators and quite often only a moving average for overall trend direction and maybe volume on the charts. So you want to keep it simple.